Hey everyone, today I'm really excited to be speaking to a very special lady all the way from Queensland in Australia. She is an incredible writer at Planet Earth and is a published author at And Then I Met You. And I came across her work on my Facebook feed. And as you know, all our friends at the moment in this battlefield is through the Facebook portal. And we've got to thank it for that because it's connecting some kindred souls together. And every time there's a few people that at the right moment, at the right time, we receive the right message. So I'd like to begin before I have the lovely lady speak herself with one of her poems, which is called Rising in Love. And it's very appropriate at the moment for what's going on in humanity right now. And I think it's really important that we make these connections because somewhere, somehow, if you're having a bad day, it's received at the right time. So here goes. It's called Rising in Love. We have come to heal the planet in her desperate time of need, bringing light to lift the darkness, soothing the pain as she bleeds. Feeding love into her veins, we are spread across the globe, knowing we have a sacred mission. Memories start to unfold. Time for hearts to come together and free humanity from control. Chains of fear breaking open, liberty starting to unroll. Let's join hands and lift our earth out of the depths of her despair, rising up to claim our freedom, the power of love, changing the air. Karen Starr, welcome to my channel. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Alpa, pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, so, as I said to you when I messaged you, thank you for expressing yourself in ways that are connecting people. I say this time and time again on my shows that everyone has a role that they're playing. And this piece is very appropriate right now that we are rising in love, in that unity consciousness, holding hands and being conscious in our action, love in action. And never undermining the impact of what our words and how our words can influence someone. So, Karen, tell us about your journey and a bit about you.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm in Australia, in Queensland, Australia. And look, I see it as there's two levels of awake. Well, there's lots of levels, but there's the mental awakening and there's the heart awakening. And until you've had your heart awakening, you think the mental awakening is the true awakening. And so I had my mental awakening where I came into the Truther movement back in 2012. I mean, before that, I'd been, 25 years working on the mind. I found the book, Your Erroneous Zones by, what's his name? I've gone blank. Anyway, I just bought it for my son because it's such a powerful book about changing, understanding that you're in control of your own thoughts.
Yeah. And
so from there, I just, couldn't get enough of reading everything. So anyway, back in 2012, got into the Truther movement with 9/11 and sort of, saw the bigger picture of what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
But then back then, not many people were into it. And, I sort of hit rock bottom because no one wanted to hear what I was saying. It was so different than it is now.
Of course.
So I totally backed away from it. And then 4 years ago, I started meditating. 5 years ago, actually, in July. And I'd sort of hit a bit of a rock bottom. So I started meditating, and 4 years after that, funnily enough, in November 2016, which was when Trump was elected, one day in my meditation, poetry just started flowing.
Wow.
And I hadn't written anything creative since I was at school. I wasn't a writer, I wasn't creative at all. I used to read, everyone's got a creative streak, and I'd be like, well, where's mine? I've got nothing. And then full-blown poems would just be channeled through. And, I started posting them thinking, well, there's a couple and that'll be it. And after about 5, I was like, well, I've got nothing else really to write about what could happen. And here I am, you know.
Well, you've got a big following. You've got a huge
4.5 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, still writing, not as much, and not as much as what I call sort of structured poetry. Like I call it poetry or prose. But you know, the prose actually seems to go down better than the poetry. So
yeah, you know. I do love them. I mean, see, I think when I sort of compare my journey with kindred souls like yourself, we have a story, right? And like, it's through other people's work that it ignites something within us and has an impact that, oh my God, I get that. That's just so me. And there's a connection, because ultimately we're all connected. And you being awake from 2012, I make no secret about it on my show, that I always reach out to these people and say, thank you for holding the light. Thank you for holding the space, because that's not easy, knowing things for that long. I mean, who am I really in these 15 months? And I was like, rah, what's going on? I think that the divine had a purpose with me, because she wouldn't be able to handle it. She's a lunatic. But it's what you do with that, and it's what you get inspired to do, and what you do that lifts the frequency of humanity. And the other show that I just done recently with was the lovely Wasim, he put it really sweetly, is that as you help others rise, you're rising, and we're just all rising. And it's so important that we're continuously conscious of doing that. So yeah.
Well, definitely it's a parallel journey of our own internal journey to the truth of who we are, which I feel is paralleled with our external journey. So it's, for me, with my writing, it was definitely a parallel, and also a healing journey. You know, my writing, because I spoke my truth, I healed a lot of stuff I was going through. You know, I spent, well, this year's been, I feel like, you know, the best year, the calmest year, most emotionally placid year ever. But, you know, before that, I was a bit more messed up. And, you know, it took me a while I really was determined to heal myself. So, you know, I did all the work. I'd say I'd been reading these sorts of books for, you know, 25 years, putting it into practice, because it's one thing to know the theory and a whole new level to actually implement it. But what you find with the Truther movement, as I was saying, so if you're on your mental journey, you'll still get emotionally involved. You'll get angry, you'll get resentful, you'll be, and I understand everyone's got their specific role to play. We need those people. They're exactly where they're meant to be at the right time. But I can only speak for myself, you know, and I get a lot more emotionally invested. But once you change over and you have that heart awakening, it's like what they say, you're of the world, but you're not in it.
Yeah.
So, or in the world, but not of it.
Yeah.
Whichever one it is.
Yeah, but you're kind of detached from.
Yeah, you're an observer.
Maya. Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're following, you're going, you know what's going on, but yeah, you're detached. You're not emotionally invested. You understand everyone's got free will. You understand that it's perfect. Whatever's playing out on the planet is playing out to such perfection, and you trust in a higher source. You trust in yourself, which is the most important thing. You've got no more fear. You understand that because you've reached such a peaceful, joyful, abundant level in yourself, and you understand the quantum reality that reflects in your external world, it's nothing to fear, because there's nothing bad that can happen, you know, that can happen.
Yeah.
You understand that. And so it shifts everything. So you can, you know, see the Truther movement through a whole new level of understanding.
Yeah.
And just allow it to play out without it affecting, without reacting and, you know, getting emotionally involved.
Yeah, and that's a real sort of skill to be able to do that, because some of the things that we've learned in the course of the last 15 months, our emotions we're led by our emotions, and it's hard not to at times. But being the observer, taking a back seat, that is that takes an enormous amount of strength and experience as well, and where you're coming from on your own soul's journey. I always say you can only meet others as far as you can meet yourself. So right now we are in a time in humanity where we're having to rise up in so many ways, in so many areas of our lives. And it's a kind of call to action that, we can't acquiesce anymore. And this truth, the movement is not what this movement was, say, even 2 years ago. It's radically changed. And we are in a situation now where if we don't implement the changes, first of all, within, you're correct there for sure. If we don't implement those changes, we're not going to see those changes outside, because everything consciously inside is reflected outside. And this is where we're constantly saying, raising our frequencies internally and our vibration. But that doesn't mean that call to action that we don't take it. So I see it very much like everyone has their role and we can influence people in our way. I think speaking up has been difficult for a lot of people. And one of the things and intentions of this show, or whatever you call this YouTube channel of mine, because there was no structure or no kind of conscious decision that I had woken up one day and thought that I'd have a YouTube channel from being a mortgage broker. I mean, like, you would have thought, 15 months ago. But I really admire people and appreciate people for what they do and seeing them for how they are doing that. So when you're posting stuff, and I can be quite sarcastic as well because I'm posting the bombs on my Facebook, but expression, and especially expression through love and writing, for me has a lot of influence, and it warms your heart, and it really nourishes your soul. So I think this awakening journey is very individual for everyone, but right now we're in a time where we're connecting, and it's so important. How is it for you where you are with your family? Oh crap, what's happened to my, hold on. Mercury retrograde. Hold on. 1 second. Come on. Okay, wait, let me just pause this. Sorry about that, guys. Just a momentary technical blip. Where were we, Karen? Where were we?
I think you're asking me about my family.
Yes, yeah.
Is that right?
How is it for
You're asking me how it affected my family?
Yeah, how is it everything being for you expressing your truth?
Well, I'd say I've got a small family. My parents are here, but we don't actually talk much because, different levels of understanding, even though I did have a coffee with them the other day, and we were talking about the jab, and they're switched on enough to know not to get that. So that's a foot in the door. And I was dropping a few Trump bombs, like saying, they're saying now, from the Fauci emails, it's originates in China. I said, Trump always called it the China virus. And I'm
going, never.
Really? So, I thought I'll leave it at that, quit while I'm ahead. So, just, and then I've got two sons who are 21 and 19, who obviously growing up with me, sort of been exposed to a lot. They're just, they found their own groove within it. Some things they agree with, some they're like, because, I've been talking about what we want to happen now. This month, I was saying the same thing last year. So they've sort of lost a bit of, well, you were saying this last year, Mum, so I just sort of let it go. But the older one's living away. I've made him promise me he won't get the jab, and he's fine with that. The younger one's here, he won't get it. So, but we've been really fortunate here in Queensland. We haven't been affected by, well, we had a couple of weeks lockdown, and, masks were mandatory for, I think, a week, which you didn't have to wear, but most people did. So really, I've been living in my bubble, observing again. I've been right out of it. And apart, if I wasn't on Facebook seeing what was going on, I wouldn't even know COVID existed in the world.
Yeah, to be
that's
fair,
really what it's like.
This is it. The social media channels are bringing people together and also bringing people apart, depending on which sort of way you look at it, because there've been a lot of shedding, literally, of and culling of people we knew, but then inviting energy that's, you know, congruent with the same frequency as ourselves. And I think this is a very interesting time because a lot of people are on different wavelengths with regards to the jab, and um, it's very important to observe yourself in this at this time. I say that because I found myself kind of like this with it, and at times I put my hands up, operating from a place of a bit of slight fear. I think everything that you said about it being perfect, it's true. You've practically read the Gita Sar there from the Bhagavad Gita, that everything that's happening is happening for the good, and it's all perfect as it is. Because, you know, we should stay detached from all these outcomes and the illusion of the matrix and Maya, and essentially it surmises the Gita Sar. So I find that at times when I'm going off the rails, you know, it's it's always good to come back to self and observe how you're behaving emotionally in these times, because we have loved ones that have taken it, and we don't truly know what's going to happen in a year, 2 years, you know. So that scaremongering is creating a little bit of imbalance in the community, the truth, the community as well.
But see how what the parallel journey is.
Yeah.
Even, you know, the Q movement, COVID, everything has been not just about getting the truth out there, but bringing humanity to embody certain frequencies, because it's all energetic with emotions. So, you know, those living in fear and anger and shame and guilt, you know, they're all in victim mentality, and you have to reach a certain level of frequency to step out of victim mentality. Sure. And align with a new truth. So every frequency, as we come up the scale and work on ourselves, we start aligning with a new truth. So that's why you can talk to someone about wearing a mask or the jab or whatever, and you just don't see eye to eye. But there's no way you will until you're on the same frequency. You won't see the same truth. Yes. So the only thing that people can do is to raise their own personal frequency, and then you start aligning with another truth, because then you're in an emotional state where you start feeling better about yourself, and you won't want to hide behind a mask. You'll start caring about your health. You'll start doing the investigating work about the jab. But until then, you're just a victim, and you just like to be led around, and you're not powerful enough to live your own truth, to understand your own truth. You're still, you know, held firmly in that matrix of being told what to do, where to go, when to bath, when to move.
Yeah. This is the thing. I think that's a good point, because it's victimization of one's psychological makeup, because there's been a lot of trauma bonds created on our planet. You know, we've been attacked and abused quite a lot from our governments, and without even realizing it. So it's somewhere subliminally kind of been really embedded in people's psyches because of the bombardment of the media, for example, and then the social conditionings that we are subject to. And we don't even realize that we're actually controlled, the masses, I say. And it is this victim mentality that we, on the other side, are sort of bashing our heads against. Yeah. However, it's down. See, this is a lesson for myself, for people on our journey, that getting angry and, you know, reducing your frequency and getting upset helps no one. It doesn't help anything. It doesn't help change anything. There has to be an acceptance somewhere along the line where, well, people can. You can only meet people as far as they've met themselves. You continue your journey, you continue fighting. The right people will listen, the right people that message is meant for, it will help them. But you're focusing, so for example, a few people in my family or some friends, I've been trying to convince them, because guess what? I happen to love them. Yeah. Here in the UK, it's really hard, Karen, really, really hard, because everybody around me has taken it, everyone. Um, and it's so difficult. So we have to start looking at the lenses of where people are, you know, in their journey. I get all of that, but it's a little bit of like, oh my God, everyone's taken it. No one's actually even questioned anything. So this is the hard bit for a lot of people.
But it's difficult for you because you're not accepting their choice. So it comes back to you. Like, how do you know? How do we know that's not their, so that's their, obviously their soul contract to play out whatever's going to happen in the world. And they've accepted that at a higher level. So who are we to come along and say, no, you can't fulfill your soul contract because it makes me feel bad?
Brilliant. And see, this is exactly where I was coming to. So I can get angry all I want, and I can think, because I'm coming from a place of righteous care and I feel this. And I was having this conversation with a friend, and it's important to vent out to the right people, to, you know, express how you feel, because let's not sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Let's not deny that to ourselves. You know, it's okay to care. It's okay to feel for these people. However, if it's consuming you, and if it's making you angry and it's doing all of that, then we're lowering our frequency. So it's so important to address the elephant in the room and speak your truth to the people. And if they're not going to listen, well, you just move away. What more can you do? They've made the choice, and exactly what you've said, this is their soul contract. They chose this themselves, ultimately, at a very deeper level.
Well, when we're trying to control someone, we're doing it for service to self. Because if we really love someone, we'll allow them to make their own choices and learn from it ultimately, because we all learn from our mistakes. So we're always doing it from a position of control and self-service, which isn't love. So it's us that have got a low frequency when we're trying to control anyone with expectation, with attachments. And this is the whole journey of coming into unconditional love, which is the heart awakening. You know, you think you love someone, you think you're doing it out of love when you don't want someone to get the jab, but are you, or are you doing it to make yourself feel better?
This is a brilliant way of looking at it, you know, and these are the questions, you know, I've sat there in my room many times. I feel very grateful to my parents for not doing it. So somewhere along the line, I think, oh God, you know, I don't have that anxiety, so it's given me that strength. But I do question, what if they did? What if they did? Yeah. So coming to terms and that acceptance was something that I needed to sort out, because my brother had it as well, and I was very sick when I heard. But that's about almost 2 months ago, and I had to work through that fear to being at a place now where, okay, he chose to do it. He's an adult, and he knows what the ingredients are, and he's made a conscious decision.
So this is your journey to embodiment, which parallels what's going on in the outer world. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. You know, it's also those that wanted something to happen, you know, yesterday or in January or in November last year. It's about patience. It's about faith. It's about trust. It's about knowing that whatever happens in the external world, we're going to be okay. Exactly. Because we've found that state of peace in ourselves. You know, it's, if anyone can steal your peace, they're in control of you. So to come into our own power, we have to be able to not allow anyone or anything to steal our peace.
Yeah, for sure. And have to remind myself that on a day-to-day basis, because we don't really know how this is going to evolve. But
what's the worst that could happen?
And
when you look at it, I mean, once you know that you don't die, you just change into a different energetic form. What's the worst that can happen? Why do we have to sit and worry and everything? I mean, okay, you die, and where do you go? Heaven or what? I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
See, guys, can you see why I was drawn to her? It's really weird. I just feel like sometimes I may not have even read like so much of a person who I just said, I need to speak to them. It's very intense. I get like you need to speak to her, contact that person. I'm like, oh, but why, how? And then I have to, then I go and then I see the stuff, like many people that I've asked to come on my show. It's a very inner calling to say, speak to that person. So yeah, of course, you know what we don't die, we never die. We just go from,
So,
the soul is internal, and we go from one meat suit to the next until we liberate, as we call it, moksha in Sanskrit. We reach that state
and I
of,
mean, now we've got the ascension, you know, we're going a whole new place. And even that, you know, I mean, once you know you're on that path, on that trajectory, yeah, I mean, why do you have to worry about anything? It's, you know where you're going.
yeah,
Well, I know where I'm going. You know where you're going. So trust the process and have faith in, you know, God, the creator, whatever you want to call it, in ourselves, in our own journey, and knowing that when you do find this inner state of peace and you've figured out how to come into abundance and you're just living, as I said, the past year for me has been my best, most peaceful year ever. I really feel that
for you, right? And you had a healing journey, and it's obviously taken you a while to get to where you were.
oh yeah, like 25, 30 years. Yeah, I mean, it's not like happened overnight, but as I said, I became aware of it through that book, Wayne Dyer, Your Erroneous Zones. I read that book. I was living in Italy at the time in a ski resort in my early 20s, and I read that book and it just blew my mind. I read it in one night, just, oh my God, I can actually control what I'm thinking and therefore influence my emotions. Well, from then on, I was on the whole journey, a whole massive bookcase there of like so many books that some of them I haven't even read. But yeah, that was the whole journey. But it's not an overnight thing. Well, not for me anyway. It's the whole journey. But this is how we learn. You know, it's like going through school. It's you can't expect someone in, you know, the latter years of you can't expect someone in kindergarten to understand what you get taught in high school. So it's definitely a journey that, you know, we learn through experience, and pain is our greatest teacher, and suffering serves its purpose. You know, I mean, if we were given everything on a platter at birth, we wouldn't be who we are today. I mean, I've lived a pretty rough life, you know, but wow, it's been my greatest teacher. You know, I always say my ex-husband, who I was married to for 7 years, and that's like way back, you know, that was an abusive relationship, but my God, I learned so much from it. I say he is my greatest teacher, and I give so much gratitude that I lived that journey and, you know, came into, because I wouldn't be sitting here now with what I, you know, if I'd been born into, you know, so-called perfection
and aristocracy.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to be born into that, but
yeah, everything serves its purpose. Every discomfort, because love, if you're feeling emotional discomfort, it means you're out of alignment with frequency of love.
Yeah.
So for me, if I'm feeling some emotional discomfort, I'm like, okay, so what am I doing? Am I not loving someone else enough? Am I not honoring myself enough? You know, there's a whole, now I can get myself right back on track. I mean, you know, it's okay to, I think, temporarily experience an emotion and not to deny it. But if you're in it for a prolonged state and it's really affecting your, you know, your life, you've got to figure out how to get back on track. And it's this, you know, this journey into love, which is, you know, the freak. And when you're in that, that's when you actually, I know it's corny, but it's, you actually have a great life, you know. It's you can respond to any situation with love because you're not trying to control it, you accept it, you're not living in fear because you know how to be creative and be abundant. It's the one road that brings you a beautiful life.
Yes, and also about being honest with yourself, honest to, you know, the sort of the duality within, the dark side of self. Yeah, and addressing that internally. And I think you're continuously evolving. Life is progressive growth. You're continuously learning. And people that come into your life are either your teachers or someone there that are going to be inspiring you in other ways. But even if they have abused you, they are your greatest teachers. I can attest to that myself. You know, I've had some of the most tumultuous relationships where I look at now and reflect positively to say it wouldn't be here where I am now to be able to speak to humanity in the way in which I do. It's because of these experiences for probably from the age of 7 right up until now that, you know, I saw so many different aspects of life and people and different experiences, which most people probably wouldn't even think or fathom. But it's the perception that we have of our brothers and sisters at face value. When we see someone, we think that, oh my God, they've really got things together, or, you know, and we've been conditioned to kind of think like that, where we don't home in and say, this person's got a story. I can really feel their soul. And being energetically connected to people, you know, I don't ignore that, and I can feel, because that's a gift that we have. Yeah, it's a gift that we have, which is our heart, the solar plex, that we can actually say, oh, I'm feeling something with this person. This person's great. And when we sort of move away from the consumerist society that we've again been forced to live upon, and just start observing our environments rather than kind of being attached to them, we start seeing the start of that detachment happening in its real sense, and it emitting a frequency of, I get it now. You know, when you're almost standing as a bystander. However, I always encourage that you need to go through that dark night of the soul. That's so important. Humanity is going through that right now.
I think one of the greatest understandings for me was knowing that nothing happens to us without our soul agreement. So then you can look at the people that you figure did you wrong, and you see it from a whole new perspective. Okay, well, I asked for that to happen, so I can learn a lesson. So then it's nothing to forgive them and see them in great respect. And even there's one step further than forgiveness, which is gratitude. Yeah. When you can thank them because they came into your life and you know, you got the opportunity, gave you the opportunity to learn what you did. You know, that's a great place to be, because you don't hold any resentment, you don't hold any anger, you're a clear vessel, you've just, you know, really stepped into your power then. So, you know, to be able to understand that, okay, yeah, everything happens for a reason, but even on a higher level, nothing can happen to us without our soul agreement. So
yeah,
then just welcome the lessons.
Yeah, and also how we view the ending of relationships, or what's going on right now, the culling and the cutting of friendships. They're just breaking. I speak to so many people, and, you know, hearing their stories, and just a common theme that's running at the moment for these last 15 months is the strain that is happening in interpersonal relationships. Again, opportunity. It's all opportunity to evolve and heal. It may not feel like it, because who wants to have that stress? And we want a peaceful life. We have this notion in our head that, yeah, we just want a peaceful life and we don't want any drama, but certain things will keep revisiting you if you haven't sorted out things internally. But right now, when there is a forced division and divide in humanity, not because we've wanted it, yeah, it's happened out of our control. How do we behave now? And this is a test, another opportunity for us to grow. And it's inevitable that this is going to happen. When you start, as you said right at the start, seeing this as it being perfect, yeah, it being perfect, because these contracts were meant to be in your, these soul contracts, sorry, were meant to be in your life for whatever time period that they were. And if people are coming out of your life now, then this is the end. And never say never. We don't know. We just don't.
Right. Yeah, attachment brings suffering. Anything you're attached to, people, relationships, expectations, outcomes, they'll all bring eventually disappointment and suffering. So we really have to, as we value our freedom, we have to give other people their freedom to be themselves and to walk their own journey. So again, you know, if they want to detach from us, we have to, you know, if we want our peace, we let them go, and we understand that they're on their journey, and it's for us then to find our own inner peace without trying to control them, again, to make ourselves feel better and serve ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
So it's all that understanding attachment is a big one, and we're attached to so many things. We're attached to a certain standard of living, we're attached to behavior in our children, we're attached to our partners, and yeah, fair enough, but then again, take it to a higher level and understand what we are as divine beings. Do we really need to be attached to all that when, you know, we understand who we really are at the heart of the matter? You know, like, we don't need to be attached, because anything attached is fear-based.
Yeah.
So again, you let it go and you just trust you'll always be provided for, you'll always be protected. And again, my go-to, what's the worst that could happen? You know, and it just shifts me right back to, oh, well, what is the worst that can happen? Okay, I'm good now.
Yeah. And I think everyone's going to be on variant levels with that, because with what we're going on, with what we're going through now, because again, you know, this is a war, there's going to be casualties. And I think that's how I've reframed it for myself right at the beginning. So it's like I metaphorically envisage that, you know, because when I get a little bit out of balance, I see myself as I stood up and I chose to sort of start screaming about X, Y, Z, and we are where we are right now. But you're on a battlefield. This is a continuous war. Here in the UK, we're going to go into lockdown after lockdown after lockdown. People were like, oh my God, we're going back into lockdown now. And not lockdown, but the restrictions haven't been lifted here. And then come July, you know, there's the speculation about going into another lockdown, or the death toll is going to be really high because of the Indian variant, etc. And so much fear is just flying around. First of all, the restrictions not being lifted. No surprise there. So no shock. No, oh my God, whatever. Prepared really for the inevitable, or the unexpected. And nothing surprises myself. But it's interesting to see where people are sort of losing their crap at the moment, because again, from a place of fear, but also there are people that are really screaming loud about enough is enough, enough is enough. And there has to be some kind of acknowledgement for those people, because it's like we all have had enough of this. And if we continue saying, well, okay, there's only so many Zoom videos I can do, but I'll be saying the same thing over and over and over again. And if we're not seeing any change, okay, I may have had an impact on people's lives, but the current global affairs need changing, don't they, Karen? We need to
As I said,
yeah,
we can't change them unless they're at a certain frequency. We can talk to a black and blue, you could do 1 million Zooms. They're not going to change unless they're at the frequency to resonate with a certain truth. Exactly. At the moment, they're at the frequency that it's righteous to wear a mask, it's righteous to get the jab, it's right, it's masks work, that's the frequency. Now, if they were to go up a few octaves and dwell in the frequency of acceptance or courage, courage is the big shift, where you step out of victimhood. They would start to be interested in your shows. They'd be, you know, reading more about, you know, alternatives. And that's where, but they've got to have the courage to step out of their victimhood. So while they're in those lower frequencies, there's absolutely zero we can do to make them see our truth.
Yeah.
So what's the point of batting our head against a brick wall? It's only bringing us to a state of not peace, you know? So that's the whole concept of coming back into your own peace and not allowing anyone else to steal your peace.
Absolutely. And very early on. And thank you for that, because it's a knowing that I will continue to do, let's say you're writing your poetry, or I'm speaking about whatever I speak about, call beautiful people like yourself on my show, because it's going to reach the people it's meant to reach. That's when you sort of rewire yourself and think, right, well, I can talk about, I mean, not everyone's doing these shows or Zoom videos and things like that. But people like that I know are working within their local communities, handing out leaflets. I just was so in awe. I wish I could meet the person who left a leaflet on my friend's car when I went for this bioresonance course yesterday, this frequency course, healing frequency machine. It's just phenomenal. And somebody left a flyer, and it was written really well about, hey, listen, you know, before you take the Jabberwocky, considered it like this, and what about this, and maybe just wait. Like, it was written with so much diplomacy and calmness that anyone reading that, hopefully it would have had an impact. What a beautiful way to put it. There's me, don't take it, it kills you. Scared. And then I read that, I thought, yeah, a bit of a better way than myself.
We've all got our roles to play, as Gady, the perfection. We're all a piece of the puzzle. You know, it's we can't all be doing shows. You need people to interview.
Exactly.
You know, we can't all be writers. Need to be readers. Now, I know on my personal journey, I actually don't write for anyone else. I write to express myself, which has been a big part of me coming into my, I guess, where I am now. So to express my truth on a core level that I wouldn't allow anyone to change a single word. Even if it got no likes or shares or whatever, there's absolutely no way I do that. It's such a kick for me to be able to capture a moment or a concept and get it articulated on paper, on Facebook or whatever. That brings me a kick on my journey. But again, I'm not writing for anyone else. So
that was my next question. That are you going to have, like, just for yourself, like a collection of all your work in one place, like a book? Because there's so much you've written, Karen, and it's lovely. I like this one, that Earthbound. That was really nice.
Yeah.
You know, and it was very fitting for me actually when I read it. It says, sometimes she cries without knowing why, bound within the mind of earthly space and time, yearning for the call to return to the stars, that far away place, still alive in her heart. The hunger is real to dissolve into love. Enough of this world and its dark, heavy blood. She aches to fly free back to her natural state, beyond feeling the pain that her human creates. Tired of this life and then the darkness it brings, seeking her truth with the joy that it sings. Songs from her homeland now starting to flow, her tears filling the river to carry her home. I love that one. And when I read that, it was, I used to, before this awakening journey, as it has been in these 15 months, it resonated with me a lot, because that's how I felt for a long time in my life. You know, the misfit, the just wanting to be in another galaxy, not here, and not truly understanding it, and it developing into all sorts of anxiety. However, you know, reading energy and all that kind of stuff, and then you come across that and you're like, other people write like this, and it sort of has an impact on me. So
see that it's always funny when well, someone else reads it, or like, because I wrote that in such an authentic state, when you read that, I can go right back to that moment and actually get teary, because it was such a truth that, you know, as I said, most of my writing, I can remember the exact moment, what I was thinking, who, if, you know, I was writing about, if it's about love or whatever. And that's where, you know, it's my truth. And it's wonderful that it resonates with anyone else, but it brings me more joy, like you reading that poem and it affecting me and me, you know, recalling my journey, than, you know, it's than it to be a famous poem, for example, you know.
yeah. And there's just
but yeah, that's
there's another I really love, but I'll read that in a second. I think it's just Yeah, it has a really nice positive impact, and you can feel it, right? You can feel the
I'm
energy.
glad you picked that one. That was, yeah, that is a special one. I mean, there's so many that, well, you said, what am I going to do? I've got, with all my albums on Facebook, I think I've got about 1,200 pieces of writing now over the last 4.5 years. I have printed them all off. I only did that recently, which was so painstaking because I had to copy and paste every individual piece of writing, but I just had them on Facebook because that's all I wrote on. I didn't save them. I didn't do anything. And, you know, with this possibility that we might lose social media, I thought, wow, well, that would be a real shame. So I spent pretty much a year copy pasting, and I had them on my computer. And then just a couple of months ago, I actually printed them all off, which again, it's not just like you can print one folder and get them all. It was a one by one, and actually getting it all in the same font and spelling mistakes. Well, I didn't know I had spelling mistakes, and you know, but it's all, I've got it all printed off now, which is it's, yeah, it feels really good to actually bring it into the physical.
Need to put it into a book, you know, just a collection of all your work, and I think that's probably one of the reasons I'm here also to say that and encourage you to do that, because like I said, we never know how we are impacting someone.
I've got one book out, that one, and then I Met You. That was my first couple of years of poetry.
No, but
obviously I've done a lot. That's only 144 poems.
Yeah,
but yeah, obviously there's another 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, so like having everything in one book, and it being kind of a go-to place, you know, like I've got some books where I don't read them all, but I'll just open a page of poetry and see what am I meant to hear today, and it's weird, it's always the right thing, or it feels right at least. I want to read one more, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you. Well, if any publishers are out there that you know want to jump on board, hey,
jump
I
on
just
board.
can't. I just won't do the self-publishing thing. I just can't be asked to, you know, get it all there. So I don't want to book that badly. So if someone wants to do it, they can do it.
Yeah, I don't think that was what you even were thinking, but it was just a food for thought. This is one on the divine masculine and feminine, and I started learning about this concept or that terminology about 3 years ago through heartache, and you kind of understanding what's going on, why you're attracting certain sort of energies into your life. And it's through poetry that helped me understand my divine feminine and divine masculine, you know, side. And then reading these type of prose or poems really kind of sheds a light onto what perhaps would be going on in your life at that time. I mean, and of course, love is something that's written about a lot. So the divine feminine is stepping into her power. What does this look like? She is softening, she's surrendering, she's letting go of control. As women, we come to understand that the world can be oh, sorry, hold on. Yeah, here we go. I just wanted to make sure it was the right one. As women, we quickly come to understand that the world can be a dangerous place. We are living in a society where over half the population is generally much stronger than us, in a system that seeks on all levels to manipulate us, and where everyone, it seems, is after a part of us, be it our bodies, our time, our money, our soul. Is it any wonder we put on our makeup, high heels, and armor as we head out the door? This is how we learn to protect ourselves and hopefully get back home. Bodies, heart, and mind intact. But can we leave our armor behind? Can we change our default setting? Can we expose our purest hearts and still feel safe? Can we be free in our expression, vulnerable in our connection, loving in our communication, and come home smiling? Yes, the woman who has integrated both her healed, healthy masculine and feminine energies can. We can be soft and flowing, knowing our inner masculine can always say no and mean it. We can be vulnerable and express, knowing our inner masculine can always choose to have and do it. We can be nurturing and loving, knowing our inner masculine can always protect us and be it. By knowing our worth, by creating strong boundaries, by trusting our intuition, by choosing self-honor, by standing in our truth, by developing high values, by leading with our heart, we can be feminine and we can be free. And
that's the thing, being free. Yeah. Sorry, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, and I thought that was just a nice one to kind of end the show, because there's so many messages in that verse for everybody.
Well, see, freedom and love have the same frequency. So the masculine mission is for freedom, and he will seek his holy mission to bring freedom, which is where he wants to be. And the feminine mission is for love. So she seeks relationship. So it's really about the balance when you bring them into union within yourself on your mission, but balancing it with love. And then again, in a couple, in a relationship, balancing the masculine freedom with the feminine love. So there's a whole amazing journey. And, you know, every relationship is a gift, because it teaches us either what we don't want, or, you know, again, to let go of attachments and expectations. And goodness me, this is where I learned it all through heartache to get where I am today, which I think is a pretty good place. I'm not saying I've still got heaps to learn, but it's all, I think, in the more joyous levels. Yeah, let's say. I think I've done the heartbreak and the tears and the attachment and the expectation and the control and all that. I've learned through mistakes and pain, and I wouldn't change it for the world to be where I am today.
That's beautiful, Karen. And I'd definitely like to invite you again on a Divine Masculine and Feminine Roundtable that I'm planning to do in about a month.
Ooh, yeah.
So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed that. I certainly have. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're contributing. And, you know, never underestimate the impact, like I say, that you're having on people, because it's just, when done with purest intentions, it will be having the right intention and the right impact. So with that said, Karen, thank you so much for today, and lots of love.
Thank you, Alpa. Thanks for having me here. Absolute pleasure to meet you, chat to you. You're such a beautiful light in the world. So thank you for your service to humanity. Lots of love.
Lots of love.